Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Dungeon Masters Guild Design Dash. Hello, everybody in chat. I see some names that I recognize, some new folks' faces, names, handles, new faces, whatever, as well. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Design Dash is sort of, think of it as like a Project Runway, British baking show, Cutthroat Kitchen, meets Dungeons and Dragons. Our three challengers below get 15 minutes, and they have to design a D&D encounter all based around a secret theme, which they don't know. Matt doesn't even know. Who knows if I know what it is? While they're designing over those 15 minutes, chat, you play a very important role. You help us come up with the rubric that we're going to be grading everybody on. We also have to figure out what the rubric is based on. So instead of stars, last time it was legally distinct percussion instruments or bells for our rubric. So you help us. But anyway, let's start jumping into some introductions. My name is Lysa Penrose. I am the brand manager for Dungeon Masters Guild and one of your lovely hosts today. And my co-host is Matt over there. Yeah, over there.
Hi, everybody. I'm the business development director for DM's Guild and Drive Through RPG. And when I'm not doing that, I also work for Onyx Path Publishing on a whole variety of RPGs and fiction.
Lovely. All right. Now, without further ado, let's meet our contestants. The first you all might recognize if you are a Dash watcher, a Dasher. It is Leon. Welcome back, champion.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Leon. I am a writer and an editor on the DM's Guild. You can find my work there. You might recognize me from the Book of House or the Uncaged Anthology or the Book of Seasons, which came out about a month ago. So you should check that out too.
All right, welcome back, Leon. Since this is your second time in the arena, do you have any advice for Josh and Sadie?
We did talk about this earlier, and now I don't want to say the same thing again. That didn't hear it, but
hear it twice. It's okay.
Yeah. I was like, shit, I gotta think of something else to say. No, so what I was saying was that 15 minutes isn't a lot of time. So one of the things that I like to do that really works is the first thing that pops in my head. I'm like, run with this. You have 15 minutes to make this one idea the best thing that you can make it. So instead of waiting around for an idea that strikes you, strike the idea instead.
Ooh, yeah, I like that. Bam. Next up is one of our new challengers, Josh Parry. Josh, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Josh. People probably know me a little bit better as JVC Parry. I've been publishing on the DM's Guild since August 2016. Probably best known for Fall from the Deep, which is a big campaign I wrote. I also do freelance writing for Lawsmith, Nord Games, and a load of other third-party publishers.
Wonderful. Now, Josh, you've watched a few dashes. What have you done to prepare for competing yourself?
Yeah, so the first thing I did was catch up on old episodes that I'd missed. And I'm a big fan of Sean Merwin's encounter design article on D&D Beyond, so I went through and had a quick look at that again.
Some nice tips and tricks. Very good. All right, so moving along to our last but certainly not least contestant, Sadie Lowry. Welcome to Design Dash. Who are you?
Hey. So I'm Sadie Lowry. I am a writer and editor and artist because I just can't stop creating no matter
Triple
what.
threat.
Exactly. I've only been on the DM's Guild scene for about 6 months, so I have a lot to prove compared to my two competitors, but I very much enjoy creating. I like story, narrative-driven work, and I'm here to do my best.
Yeah, so you've mentioned a little bit about your style of design, but tell us, what part of your design style approach do you think our viewers will see from you today?
So I tend to, so you might know me from, I forgot to say this, you might know me from my first two adventures, A Darkness from the Stars and Deathless Skies of Sire, both of which are Eberron adventures that I published and that have both hit a silver bestseller. I tend to take a big idea like astral dragon or airship leviathan fight and then just run. So if I design how I want to design today, start with a big idea and just go with it.
Oh, I'm very excited. This sounds epic already. All right, are all of you ready to hear the secret theme? All right, I told our contestants in the behind-the-scenes chat earlier that there is a twist. So I'll reveal the theme, and then I will let you know what the twist is. Our theme today, we are challenging you to design a D&D encounter based around the theme famous duets. So these are things, people, what have you, that famously go together. The twist is that this must be written as an encounter in the duet D&D style. That means one dungeon master, one player. Yeah, a lot of folks have interest in D&D duets right now since we're all at home. So you are doing famous duets, a D&D duet encounter. It is 11:06 on my clock right now, so I'm going to give you an extra minute till 11:22, and you may design now.
Right.
Dash away. All right. Chat. I see some folks calling out some famous duets in chat already. There's Bonnie and Clyde, Peanut Butter and Jelly. I love that. Both people and things. They can interpret famous duets however they like, and that's part of, I think, the fun of Design Dash is seeing how many different ways the contestants interpret the secret theme.
And I'm surprised every time by somebody in the dash, because we give them a challenge and then I try to think, oh yeah, I would come up with this and this, and somebody could go this way, but then somebody comes out of nowhere with hilarious ideas.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of hilarious ideas, I love the Willy Boo in chat says everything is rated on a scale of 1 to 2. I really like that, and might roll with that. That's fun. Left shark, right shark, Chaos says in chat. Ren and Stimpy kobolds. What a fun idea. Rubric suggestion from TK, tragic ending. Get out of here with your spookiness, TK. Get out of here. Lots of famous people and food themes coming up in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
But we need more categories for our rubric.
How many duets?
Yes. Okay. So number of duets. Now I'm taking notes because this is a very serious show for serious people. The Willy Boo suggests amount of contrast between duets. That's interesting because cool. Duets can be like complementary things or opposites that go together. Gelatinous cubes and spike traps. So what would you do? What's a famous duet you think you'd base an encounter around?
Probably Van Helsing and Dracula.
Ooh.
Or some sort of twist on that. Or Jekyll and Hyde.
Good ones. Both spooky.
Yeah.
While we chit-chat, I'm going to throw up the beginnings of some of these encounters so folks can listen. I'm already seeing that Sadie's titled hers Fae School Musical, so I'm very excited about that.
You did a blog post featuring a bunch of duets recently.
Yeah. So I need to create a short link for this.
Sure.
But on the One Bookshelf Medium blog, on the Medium platform, we've created a blog post all about D&D you can play in very, very, very small groups. So that's D&D you could play just by yourself if you aren't able to connect with your party or just feel like rolling some dice. I feel like it'd be fun to play solo D&D right before bed and then have like adventurous dreams. Or D&D duets, which are one dungeon master, one player. So if you are stuck at home and you want to play some D&D with your partner, or your roommate has always wanted to play D&D, but as you have yet to introduce them to that world, D&D duets are really great. It includes some adventures that are meant for new players and new dungeon masters. So if you are someone who has always wanted to play D&D, now you have a lot of time, but now you have no idea how to start if you can't go to your friendly local game store. First Blush by Jonathan and Beth Ball, who do a lot of D&D Duet adventures, is a really great beginner one. We have a bunch of recommendations. It also includes a list of sidekicks, which, if you're familiar with the D&D Essentials kit, it introduced a mechanic called sidekicks. So if you're playing with a small party, as small as one person, they can have little companions who travel with them and who level up as well. And there are a bunch of sidekicks in the Essentials kit, but the creators on Dungeon Masters Guild have expanded and created so many more sidekicks for different settings and meant for the different D&D hardcover books. So that's awesome. I'm taking a look at chat. Jack's Not Funny calls out Minskin Boo. Is maybe one of the most famous D&D famous duets.
Looks like Jack made you a link, too.
Oh, thank you, Jack. bit.ly/DND duet. We'll get you that blog post. Thanks so much, Jack. Ooh, Drake Take says 2 dragons named Ebony and Ivory, which is such an appropriate suggestion from someone whose name is Drake Takes.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sensing a theme.
Yeah, let's see. Rubric Suggestion inspired by @Rosalind, 1 to 5 kobolds in a trench coat. Is that the scale? Oh, Grinning Greg says most singing. I don't think it's fair. Well, let's to have a rubric thing that's built around Sadie's encounter, but let's take a peek at Josh. Josh has also gone for that Jekyll and Hyde inspiration. Classic.
Nice.
A truly famous. Oh, but look at the second line that he has here. Etten with double personality. There is a fun D&D twist that makes that idea truly original. I love it. I see Chaos has thrown out a serious suggestion for the rubric. Failing forward, keeping the game going. That's a really great thing to include in adventures.
Absolutely. What do you find as one of the challenges when you're either playing or running a duet?
Well, I guess I have played. I've run and played. It's a very different experience running a duet adventure versus normal D&D. Usually, as a dungeon master, the challenge is balancing everybody trying to have your attention. And also like keeping track of all of the different things happening with the party members. The challenge when you're running just for one person is very different. I feel like things move a lot faster when it's just one person, but it's also the depth I find of role play. There's more depth there because you're really just having a conversation one-on-one with someone versus having to, I don't know, chat with them and then move along to what someone else is doing. And sometimes I get a little bit nervous, honestly. I was nervous my first time thinking, I'm going to have enough to say for all of these different characters. But the first one I ran was indeed First Blush, the adventure that I mentioned. And they detail so many awesome tips and tricks in there. It's a really lovely, nifty little adventure that once I started playing, it went nice and smooth. Have you ever done a duet game?
I'm actually running one right now.
For Monica?
Yeah,
Nice.
Absolutely. Because, we've got online play using Astral, but we also want to do something in person rather than always be on the computer because we're on the computer all day.
Yeah.
So we just started a brand new adventure where she's playing a ranger in a campaign setting that I'm writing from a brand new campaign setting. So it also lets me play test and take lots of notes, especially as I make up new NPCs on the fly. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna write that down. Or come back and say, nope, I'm not publishing that. So,
what do you find different or surprisingly the same running a duet game?
One of the big differences is scaling challenges because there's no group dynamic. If she gets in trouble, she's in trouble. There's no other player at the table that's going to help her out. And then also, like you said, it's basically the entire spotlight is on that one character. So it has to be a lot of good story to keep that character's adventures moving along.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm distracted because Drake Take said something really cool in the chat.
Yeah.
A great duet encounter would be a magical duplicate of your character. The DM plays the opposite alignment of your character, sort of like into the looking glass encounter. That's cool. I also love, cool, as a player, when the DM does stuff directly related to my character. So that would be very fun.
Yeah.
Everyone in chat has some great famous duets that they're calling out, but we need more rubric suggestions. What are not scales for our rubric, which I think we might go for the 1 to 5 kobolds in a trench coat that Wild Rose Mage suggested. But what can we grade these duets on? Let's see. I'm taking a look at Leon's adventure right now. And I love, the top just says opera scene, ? Disclaimer, all I know about opera I learned from playing Final Fantasy.
One of the things the duets could be how competitive versus how cooperative they are.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
Because you've got duets that are rivalries, duets that are allies, and we could see how people play those against each other.
I like that. Rivalries or allies. The Willy Boo, adding on to what Drake Take said earlier, your duplicate needs an evil goatee. Let's see. Justice has something to say about editing a duet adventure. I got to be a developmental editor for Anthony Joyce's The Blood Hunter adventure on the Guild. Scaling challenges was interesting. We originally wanted to put a banshee in the module, but because of the wailing ability, we had to use a wraith instead. That's a great point. Yeah, there's a lot of monsters that, even if the CR works, and other abilities or attacks and such would be fine, they have special abilities that would truly be devastating for a single player.
Yeah, one of the things we've found is like the sidekicks you were describing earlier is have an animal companion or another way to give the player some options for encounters, so they're not totally on their own.
Okay, we're getting some rubric suggestions now.
Nice.
Grinning Greg says, rubric, bonus if it is for 2 PCs. The Willy Boo, number of conflicting decisions you have to take.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like conflicting decisions because it's like choosing between 2 things, which is a duet in itself.
Bad. Yeah.
Put a little note there.
Nice.
Oh, Drake Takes us asking, what is a rubric? So the rubric is how we are grading these contestants. So at the end of the day, everybody wins. The rubric and the number of kobolds in a trench coat don't matter, but it's fun to have a fun rubric. And at the end of each person reading their design to us and sharing and answering questions, we will grade them on each of the rubric questions or lines, I guess, that you all helped us decide. The Willy Boo rubric, ratio of creatures with multiple heads to creatures with tails. That sounds like math to me.
It's because somebody's doing an etin, I think. That's where that came from. Bunkerman.
Oh, yes. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're almost coming up on time. You have created some very cool bundles on the Guild. Can you tell me about those?
Yeah. So right now, I mentioned this at last Dash, but I have an update for you all. So right now we have a Doctors Without Borders charity bundle. In fact, we have 2 of them. Each of them are a $20 donation, all of which goes to Doctors Without Borders. One of them is focused on adventures from the D&D Adventurers League. So if you like official play campaigns, or you just like having different adventure modules that you can take ideas from or run directly, the AL Adventurers League Doctors Without Border bundle is for you. You can find that at dmsguild.com. The other bundle has player options, new rules and mechanics, adventures, all sorts of stuff for dungeon masters and players. And that is also a $20 donation. There's also an option to pay what you want if you wanted to donate more than 20, or if you can't donate 20 but you did want to contribute something, there is that option there. I just checked this morning before the show, and we have raised just over $30,000 with the Dungeon Masters Guild community. You all are awesome. We're going to keep those bundles up for the weekend and take those down Monday, but some new things will be going up on some of our sister sites, so keep an eye out on that. So thank you everyone who donated, who got one of the bundles. Please spread the word this weekend so we can do one last push.
Well, thanks everybody.
Let's see, we've got 1 minute left. The clock is ticking. Minivan Gaming says, what would Simon Cowell rate the performance? Fluffy Snowball says, how close to a Disney princess do they become with animal companions? Oh, goodness. Oh, we have someone who's running the campaign that Josh wrote. They're running Call from the Deep on their stream, Drake Takes. So thanks for sharing that. That's very cool. Nilly Line says, Rubric, unique mechanics for the duet adventure. I really like that for this challenge, so I'm going to write that one down.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Unique duet mechanics. That's a good one. So these are the ones that I wrote down. I find that it helps to have 3 to go, and that's become a good number. So these are rated on a scale of, actually, it is 11:22 on my computer right now. I think that means we call time.
Yeah,
all right,
absolutely.
I'm going to go into the chat. I'm going to call time. Sadie's got her headphones back on. I think that means she's out. Let's see. Josh. Don't know if he's still going, but we're going to highlight his work. Make it red. Leon looks like they might still be going too.
Oof.
Is that scary when we go in there?
That's kind of fun.
I took my headphones off. Sorry. I'm back, everyone.
Hello, everybody. How are we all feeling after that?
That was great. What a release.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so we're going to go through and have you all share your encounters with us. It helps to go through and essentially read and add commentary. Some folks are just listening to the show, not watching it, so they won't be reading along on the screen. But chat helped us come together, chat helped us put a rubric together. So we will be grading you based on most rivalries and most allies. So seeing whether you have contrasting or complementary duets. We'll be grading you on conflicting decisions that must be made. Sort of like a choose between this and this, which is a duet in itself. And the last is most unique duet mechanics. If anyone added something special because this is a duet. And the scale that we decided on was the number, or a 1 to 5 kobolds in a trench coat. That is our scale.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
You have chat to thank for that.
I love that.
Yes. So we're going to go right down the line. So Leon, that means you're up first. Let me unhighlight to save our precious eyeballs. Famous duets. I see opera scene? ? Take it away.
Yes. So I've been listening to a little bit of opera lately. So maybe the fact that everything I know about opera I learned from playing Final Fantasy VI is not quite correct. But everything I know about opera in games, I know from playing Final Fantasy VI. So my sort of scenario here is that the dungeon master and the player are both working together to make an opera, which is more or less a duet between two different characters, work beautifully, except DM, as always, has a plan, the libretto perhaps, to follow, and the player is playing a wild magic sorcerer. The hasn't read the script, and my idea is, how can we force wild magic to show up and quote unquote ruin the show as much as possible? So while the scenarios are being presented here, my idea is that the DM really doesn't have as much power as a DM typically would in this scenario, because they really only have the other characters. So this is definitely more of a duet in the traditional sense of, like, you both have one character that you're using their influence on this story. And while the DM has the script and knows how the story is supposed to go, the player, as a sorcerer, can cast spells, maybe illusion magic or maybe enchantment magic, to try and make the story go the way that they would like to go. And of course, every time as a wild magic sorcerer you expend a spell slot, there is a chance for something to go horribly, horribly wrong. So that was my goal, is to try and proc wild magic as much as possible.
Cool.
So the opera, sort of the background on it, is one that is like super famous in Waterdevian culture, popular culture, and this is a live performance. You're doing it in Waterdeep, so like everybody apparently who's coming to see this, like, generally has a vague idea of how the story is supposed to go in their head. Kind of like how I've never actually seen Carmen in real life, but I saw the episode of Hey Arnold that was about Carmen, so I kind of know what it's about. So a famous adventurer who is played by the player has to slay a dragon and save their beloved, who has been transformed into like a goblet or a chalice or something and was added to the dragon's hoard. A very like super simple story. There's a romance, there's adventure, there's a dragon. I didn't put a dungeon in there, so I definitely failed.
How dare you?
I know. So the first act of the opera is heading to the dragon's lair, and the adventurer has a guide character, which is the dungeon master's character. And the guide character knows the way that's supposed to, that this thing is supposed to work. And maybe that is the less glamorous version, or maybe it's the less interesting version, or just doesn't seem like it would make sense in the story. Normally when I design choices like this, I have a lot more time, so I can think of like, what's the most compelling reason to disagree with the dungeon master? But I didn't. So I was like, for some reason, make them disagree, right? There's got to be some kind of interesting choice here that is it works fine, and it's fun and cool if the player agrees with the GM, but can be potentially catastrophic if it doesn't work out. So here's sort of your first chance to be like, no, I want the story to go the way that I want to do, and use a little bit of creative spell casting to attempt to do that. In Act 2, you reach the dragon's lair, which I suppose could be a dungeon. So there we go. There's your dungeon. And this has to look like real combat, which means it runs like real combat. But it's considered stage combat, so like non-lethal damage is implied.
It's pro wrestling.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yes!
Wrestling a dragon. I love it.
Yeah, so you're gonna use Red Dragon Wormling statistics, but it's actually just like two guys dressed up in a dragon costume.
Oh my god.
And
One's the head, one's the tail, right?
Yeah, exactly. And once the Red Dragon Wormling is down to half its hit points, that's equivalent to like knocking the head out, which means that it can't use its fire breath anymore.
Oh my gosh, because the guy who was operating that part of the machine has been taken out of the fight.
Yeah, you might have maybe gone a little bit too far. And also, this is supposed to be like a very, very early level encounter, right? Like maybe you don't even know that you're a wild magic sorcerer yet. Maybe you're just like, cool, I have magic powers, and the opera's tomorrow. So like this might be you might be compelled to use some spell slots here, which is my hope with, you know, like a CR2 monster, and it's just you and an unnamed, unstatted guide character against this thing. So I'm hoping that at some point during this fight, wild magic happens, and then the goal is to make whatever comes out of that wild magic surge look like it's a part of the show. Like, so even if the entire audience has been sucked up to the roof because it's like gravity has reversed in on itself and now they're all upside down, like there has to be, now it's your responsibility as both of the actors in the show to make that look like, yeah, this is supposed to be what happened. This is a new retelling of a classic story and we meant to do that. Wink. And so Act 3 is, you know, you've destroyed the dragon. They go off stage. Probably one guy is dragging the other one because he's been knocked out. And you have to search for your beloved, who you believe has been transformed into one of the goblets or the chalices on the hordes. So there's a scene if the adventurer has to like climb through and look through all of them, and while they're making these investigation checks looking for one that might resemble who they're looking for, how do you find a person who's been transformed into a goblet? Like, what characteristics do you retain after that type of true polymorph? The guide character is on the bottom, and like on the bottom of the stage, singing a riddle to the adventurer, which is, I can be full or empty, fragile enough to be smashed into pieces, and prized by a fearsome warrior. And this is the part in the opera where, like, if you have an opera-loving friend, they like rib you and they're like, are you watching this? This is the best scene. This is the famous duet scene.
This is the scene.
This is it. So this is the famous duet scene. The two are arguing, and like, because this is a classic thing, like everyone in the audience knows what's going on, but they don't know what's going on. Because the guide is not talking about the goblet. The guide is talking about their own heart, because this whole time they were the captured beloved. And once the adventurer gets that riddle, the final scene is sort of them joining up in an embrace. And, you know, that the Tchaikovsky Romeo and Juliet theme obviously plays here. And yeah, I put the final scene and nothing, because that's what was supposed to happen there. And my thought was sort of in the same way that, like, the final enemy in Ghosts of Saltmarsh has that sort of like score tally for the final encounter when you're fighting everybody, and you get points for like how prepared you were for the war and how much destruction you caused to the Sahuagin fortress. I thought about using a points tally for maybe having regular performance checks, maybe earning points for special effects bonuses, and that determines whether or not you get a standing ovation, who claps, who believes that all of this was scripted, what beautiful flowers they throw at you at the end, maybe. So like that would definitely be your instant gratification, is tallying up those points totals, and the GM narrating what that ovation at the end of the opera looks like.
Oh my goodness. I don't want to stand off of camera and you all see my PJ bottoms. But I give you a sitting ovation. Yeah. That was awesome.
Boy.
That's so fun. I love that it is scenes of a high stakes encounter, but it's all staged. It's an opera, which gives so many opportunities for fun, silly little bits of role play. There were also 3 things that chat said throughout this that I definitely wanted to share with you. And if anyone has questions for Leon or any of the other designers while they're chatting, throw those into the chat. Put question really big so it's easy for me to find in the chat. But Leon, Wild Rose Mage says 2 guys in a dragon costume counts towards the kobolds in a trench coat. So we're just gonna give you two right away. TK says, can't believe we didn't have both Dungeons and Dragons on the rubric. Which, you know what? Good point. We'll give you a 3rd kobold because you had half of that most famous D&D duet in there. And then Grinning Greg says, twist when the dragon splits like an ooze. which I just thought was super, super funny. Goodness gracious. But Matt, do you have any questions for Leon?
Yeah, just a couple of what ifs. If you moved this out of Waterdeep and into a different location, how would you change it? What kind of tools would you give for the GM? Say it was in Ravenloft or something like that.
Oh, man, I've never imagined myself going to view an opera in Ravenloft. But I mean, I always just look. When I run D&D for new players, I typically start things in Waterdeep because I'm in New York City, and I'm always like, Waterdeep is the New York of is the like fantasy New York sort of. That's how I describe it to my New York Central players. But honestly, now I really want because Waterdeep, you could cut and paste any large scale city. But now I'm also really loving maybe it's like a really small village and it's community theater and it just becomes waiting for Guffman at that point.
That's fantastic.
So maybe the stakes are not as high, but they're still super high to you because the show means so much to you.
The show must go on.
Yeah.
Goodness. So if you had another 5 minutes to add, what do you think you would have expanded on or changed?
Definitely the performance mechanics. I think that a lot, I like to create moments or situations where things that I don't necessarily script will happen. So trying to come up with the circumstances that would allow for those opportunities to create or for those opportunities to happen is something that I'd love to have a little bit more time on.
Wonderful.
Yeah, very cool.
So thank you, Leon, for sharing your lovely opera encounter. Not what I was expecting at all. I don't know why I didn't expect literal duet. I award you most Inception dash, a duet within a duet adventure. And we'll move along to Josh. I still have your adventure or your encounter highlighted. There we go. Okay. So Josh, walk us through.
Yeah, mine's a bit different.
Same here.
This first lot is just like a summary of what I want. So the duet that I kind of picked, I guess they're kind of a duet, is Jekyll and Hyde. And the obvious thing that came kind of straight to mind for me is an Etin, because, the two heads, they're kind of two personalities. One's Jekyll, one's Hyde. And this poor Etin has lost their potion of calm emotions, which keeps them kind of level-headed, as it were. So the character first kind of encounters them sort of crying to themselves in a little wooded glade, and hopefully doesn't just kill it straight away and actually tries to ask what's wrong. And they explain that they've dropped their potion of calm emotions, kept in this big keg with a little self-portrait on it in the woods. And they went back to try and find it, but they can't find it. And they think that perhaps the local lumberjacks have taken it back to their camp because they thought, heck, there's some potion in the woods. I'm going to take that. It's got to be worth a pretty penny. So fearing that just walking into the lumber camp themselves will get them kind of killed, the Etin asks for the adventurer's help and says, look, come on, can you go and talk to these people, see if they've found anything? I can show you exactly where the camp is, but I've got to warn you, I'm at breaking point. Once the left head goes, they really go, and things are going to get bad. So the Etin takes them to the lumber camp, explains what the keg is, and that it might kind of take some work to get back to him because it's an enormous keg filled with potion. And thus the adventure begins. So I've got a little bit of read aloud text here.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'll read that, shall I? When you arrive at the lumber camp, it's clearly business as usual. The assortment of laborers walk around their huts and workshop, chopping and sawing wooden planks and shooting the breeze between shifts. As you ready yourself to approach, you hear a terrifying bellowing from behind. Jekyll Hyde's right head looks at you in fear as the left head bares its stained teeth. Hurry up! And then ideally I'd have a camp map, but you know, I can't draw, and I definitely can't draw a map in 15 minutes. So, but there's 4 huts and a workshop. The potion of calm emotions is in one of the huts in the keg that you described. And then at the start of each initiative round, you roll a d20, and then if the result's 10 or more, Jekyll Hyde's right head maintains control and can help out the character. So, you know, I think probably the biggest problem with one GM, one player is that the player can quite quickly become outnumbered. So I've tried to put in multiple instances of where they can get allies from. One of which is the Etten themselves, provided they can keep control. But unfortunately, if the result is 9 or less on that d20 roll, the left head takes control and attacks the nearest creature, structure, piece of tree, whatever's nearby. So I'm picturing, you know, huts getting demolished. I'm picturing massive piles of logs being pushed over and rolled down the hill, that kind of thing. I've made a couple of notes here. This is what I'd probably expand on. There's a crane, stacked logs, so you could use the crane to move the potion if you're not strong enough to do it yourself. The stacked logs can be used to make barricades to keep the Etten kind of where you need them to be kept and away from the laborers. And I've also talked here about how you can make a charisma, persuasion, or performance check to try and calm down the laborers and explain what's going on rather than them just going haywire with their kind of hand axes. If your result's bad, they all flee or hide in the huts, which can be dangerous because then maybe the Etten's going to crush them in the huts. If you get a kind of average between 10 and 20 result, half the laborers flee, but half of them say, look, we'll give you a hand. And then if you get 21 or more, they all say, okay, we're all in this together. We've got to find that potion barrel. And then I kind of added an optional extra here because I figured if they rolled really well on the persuasion check and all of the laborers just immediately said, yeah, we'll help you out. Here's where the potion is. Maybe the DM needed to throw something else in. So I've thrown in a goblin clan because I just, you know, who doesn't love goblins, called the Hucklegax. And they're kind of opportunistic thieves, and they've seen this Etten come charging into the lumber camp, and they're thinking, great, while everyone's distracted, we can go in and steal some axes. Absolute best day of our lives. We love axes. So then that just adds an extra layer of complication. So, you know, who are the goblins going to attack? Are they attacking the character? Are they attacking the laborers? What if the goblins get their hands on the barrel? You know, so on and so forth. Nice. And then I started writing here about what would happen once you finally get the barrel back, but ran out of time, unfortunately.
Oh my goodness. I mean, so fill us in on what you had in mind, but you didn't get your words down yet.
Yeah, so definitely just writing up here what the Etten would give them. I guess they're capable of brewing potions because they're brewing themselves this calm emotions potion, so they can probably help the characters out with potions of healing, potions of fire breath, whatever they fancy. And it would also have been good to, I'm not going to find it, where I talk about the barrel being quite heavy because it's filled with potion, introduce just a few more mechanics, you know, like a strength check to roll it, or a persuasion check to help to convince a laborer to help you with it, or how to operate the crane to carry it that way.
Nice.
And drawing a map would be nice too, but hey.
This was so fun. I find that this was I think maybe because you described so many things in the environment, keeping in mind what players might want to interact with, this was a very visual encounter for me. I feel like I could see the whole camp. And also, I feel like I would die for Jekyll Hyde. I know there's just something very cute about monsters who want to be good. And that he has, like, his little, but actually humongous potion barrel that he keeps on him. Sure. That's so
I like
cute.
the fact that we've got both rivalry and an ally in the same character.
Yes. I made notes for the rubric. Also, multiple places to get more allies. Which is maybe not a mechanic per se, but I'm counting that for unique duet mechanics, since you kept in mind this is designed for a duet. They could get overwhelmed. Here are ways that they can get some extra help. I loved that.
Thanks.
Chat, let us know if you have any questions. In the meanwhile, Matt, did you have any questions for Josh?
Yeah, one of the things I was going to ask about was working with the one player and their immediate decision making when they first meet the character. What tools would you give the GM to either encourage or introduce a way that there's a further adventure here rather than just here's a monster to kill.
Yeah, sure. I think, well, I've tried to introduce some kind of appeal to empathy in the first piece of read aloud text, which I didn't read, but essentially talks about him kind of crying to himself in the forest. I think really it's all about framing. So I think people have tropes that they expect to see. So if they hear the word Etin, they are probably immediately thinking, where's the Great Club? Because it's coming at me. I know it is. Whereas if you can sort of say, oh, you know, they've laid their club down on the tree stump that they're sitting on, their heads are in their hands, then I think that's a great way to do it. And also, maybe more mechanically, you could just provide something like an insight check just for that player to get an obvious key.
Cool. Yeah. I do find that you're right. Like lots of people instantly react to the normal expectation of, oh, this is a combat scene. So
Yeah.
A GM it really helps when an encounter is written up to provide lots of helpful suggestions.
Mm-hmm. So I noticed, everyone on Dash, their dashes look a little bit different, but it's particularly unique that you have like little bits of flavor text, even when designing only in 15 minutes. So how does this compare to your usual process when you're designing?
To be honest, I would say the only real difference is that it's faster. So I think when I well, it kind of depends, but when I sit down to write like a one-shot adventure, I will normally have the idea spark and then quickly jot down the notes in kind of bullet points and say, okay, here's how I can address the 3 pillars of play. And then I kind of just start. And for me, most encounters and adventures need to start with at least a piece of box text, essentially, to open it. I mean, don't tell James Intricasso, but so I like to have that in there. And then I think I guess I visualize what I'd see on the page. And so as I'm writing, I'm kind of building up the picture of the page in my head. So I don't know, things kind of flow for me in that way rather than, and then when I go to edit it, or when someone else edits it for me, they can kind of rearrange it into maybe a more logical structure, whereas I kind of tend to just go chronologically, I guess.
Wonderful. So you mentioned you sort of like outline things ahead of time. So this, the bullet points at the top, was all of that, like, did you go back and add things, or was all of those bullet points the first things you put down?
No, that was all the first. I mean, I moved some stuff around because I kind of put the role play stuff in the combat section initially, and then because I was thinking, well, how are these 2 heads going to interact, and then moved them around a bit. But yeah, I kind of put it down and then left it there.
Nice. So I'm looking at our rubric, and I feel like, let's see, we've got multiple allies. So I think you earn at least 2 kobolds in a trench coat just for allies, a 3rd from the rivalry within one character, and then I'd say a 4th for kind of thinking of this uniquely as a duet. So in our rubric, where the kobolds in a trench coat don't matter, Josh, I give you 4 kobolds in a trench coat.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move along to Sadie. I see There's a title, Phase School Musical.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
What better duet than breaking free from High School Musical? So in my adventure, this was very hard to do in 15 minutes because logistically this would span several months of school. But the scene opens on the Feywild, on a twisting school of vines, roots, and towering foliage. Known as the East Wind High, this Fey school is known for its enchanting, thrilling arts division, and especially its yearly singing competition, which is cutthroat and merciless.
This is like every Nickelodeon show right now.
The 2 reigning champions are Sharpain Evergreen and her twin brother Ryan. The DM is playing Zach Elfron, not Troy.
Oh, can I take away a kobold in a trench coat?
Zach Elfron. And so the DM playing Zach Elfron and the player must develop this relationship over the school year, and Zach Elfron will be, they'll both be going through these various, the murky throes of Fey High School drama in their attempt to win the Fey High School competition. Sharpayne is a chaotic neutral blonde Fey singer whose beguiling bardic music has drawn many fans. She's much more tricky than her brother, but it hides a need to survive and to be seen. Ryan is much more sincere and genuine, but that is often used to his sister's advantage. This is the next section is the one that I would personally expand had I been given more time. The challenges. If you were to sit back and think, what would Sharpay and Ryan be able to accomplish if they were Fey with magic? That's the scariest thing I have ever asked myself. And I breezed through this section to try to get to the last one, to the duet. But if I had 5 more minutes, I would come back here and I would write about the chaos. Sharpayne and Ryan would attempt to discredit the player in various Fey ways. There'd be surges of wild magic. They would attempt to get the player disqualified. Zach Elfron wants desperately to sing, but his love of Pixie Bowl and the coach's expectations may cause him to back out of the competition. The player has any number of choices now as their relationship is developing. This is pivotal, the character development. They can encourage him to abandon pixie bowling, resulting in the coach's fury. They can encourage him to pursue both, potentially at the risk of his performance in either case. Or they can enter the talent competition alone, which is a risky move should you decide to sing that last song without your partner. The culminating duet battle takes place on stage at first. This is a Fey school. You hear the distant distant school theme, the dryads, fairies everywhere. Wave your hands up in the air. The whole school is in on this. And it's very vibrant and colorful. This is the Feywild. But this is not an ordinary competition, no. There is always a twist. And so as Sharpayne and Ryan belt out Jump to the Flump, the arena is filled with spinning, dazzling flumps and all manner of chaos and beauty combined, and they are given a high score, which only sets the drama for the player's new song. When the player takes their place to sing Breaking Free, whether on their own or with the Zach Elfron, the stage drops beneath them, they begin to levitate, and they must succeed escalating performance checks and use their ingenuity to enhance the performance with cantrips and vibrant displays and maybe even persuasion checks to draw the audience in on their side. If Zach Elfron is also there, he gives a very passionate performance, one that all of the Pixie Bowlers come to support because they have learned the meaning of friendship in this time. His inspiring and romantic adoration, or platonic. I don't play your game. You do yours. His adoration for the character gives the character advantage on the final verse, and the character can give advantage to him if it's clear that the character believes in him and that together they are breaking free. What I didn't get to write is that if the players if this duet does well enough, Sharpayne and Ryan may actually attack them in the final verse of their song, resulting in a duet battle between Sharpayne and Ryan and Zach Elfron and your protagonist. So they are not only duetting, but they are also battle duetting. And,
battle duets.
Yes, as Feywild magic is running rampant across the stage as they are pulling out all of their trickery and madness in order to win. And they are judged on any number of things. If I had to write a rubric, it would be about as ridiculous as this one, because it's the Feywild. And who knows, maybe you and Zach Elfron will together break free and win the talent competition.
I don't know where to go with this.
Well, we've got rivals and allies for sure.
Yeah.
So that's the easy one to.
And also a
get.
conflicting decision, what you do with Zac Efron and
Right.
Pixie Bowl, which I want mechanics for Pixie Bowling. I want to play in a Pixie Bowling game.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah, I feel like this could be a whole high school campaign where there's all the different little parts of high school D&D-ified. But, oh my goodness. So how did this compare to your usual design process, Sadie?
Well, it was very similar in the, like, I'm a very just get words on the page writer. Like, you can fix it up later, you can always make it better, you can always edit, just get words on the page. So this definitely compares to me, because it's like, you know, going through, I have all these ideas of what I would improve. Like, I would expand that second section and I would add the fight at the end, but like, I got words on the page, we got through the story. It's also very relationships based, which is a very key defining point for me. Like, the relationship that you have with Zac Efron at the end makes a very big difference, and it's you and the DM working together to really develop this. So that was actually very much the same for me. It was like, okay, the players or the characters' choices, their role playing, the choices they make, all of that should culminate at the end, and the end should be chaotic and have a lot of freedom and have a lot of different effects based on your choices. So that was all actually very similar. It was actually more comfortable than I thought it'd be.
Oh, well,
good.
I'm glad
Yeah.
for that. I feel, this is definitely sort of like also like a dating sim
Yes.
in D&D.
So
And I'm here for it.
if you had more time, would you make this multiple separate encounters to like fit like a season or like you said, a semester of school? So there would be different encounters over time, or would you do this all together?
I could see it going either way. Here's the thing, like, you could either push it to the really simplistic and keep it like Sharpayne and Ryan do one thing and then you go to the school competition and it's a very linear thing. Or, I mean, if you want to make it a big campaign, why not introduce a couple other rivals? Why not, you know, bring in Gabriella's like science team, right? Her debate, science, math. Bring them in on it too. Start introducing more allies, more rivals, and have like escalating incidents where Sharpayne and Ryan are clearly getting desperate to get you kicked out of school. I think it could work either way. You could either go very linear and simple, or you could make this a very convoluted political high school drama
Oh, the
for
politics.
competition.
I adore this. So the rubric, we have rivalries for sure, potential allies, and conflicting decisions. I think we hit those three. Am I missing anything, Matt?
No, I think those are the big ones.
So
yeah.
Sadie, I give you 3 kobolds in a trench coat. Very well
Yay!
done.
Thank you.
So at the end of the day, the kobolds in the trench coats don't matter. But one of these lovely contestants will reign supreme, and it's all up to you, chat / viewers watching the VOD later. I will be going up on the DMs Guild at DMS_Guild Twitter right after this show ends and putting up a Twitter poll that will be up for a week. You can vote for Leon, Josh, or Sadie to come back in next month's Design Dash to face 2 new challengers. So it is in your hands now. So whatever your personal rubric was, go with the kobolds in a trench coat in your heart. But let's go backwards and do some outros. So we'll start with Sadie this time.
Hi. Yes. When I'm not writing quirky high school musical ripoffs, I am writing, editing, drawing. My name is Sadie Lowry. A couple upcoming projects that I kind of want to give a shout out to. Realigned by Realm Warp Media, which is led by Ryan. We are doing a new take on alignments, which I think people will be very interested in. We've got 3 different systems based off of different ways that you might want to see alignment done, and so I think that'll be really good. I'm also part of a Studio Ghibli inspired anthology that I think we're tentatively calling Eyes Unclouded, led by Bridie Dutton. Look out for that. That's going to be lovely and capture all of Studio Ghibli's heart. The Adventures Domestic Handbook, which is a huge project. It is over 150 pages of all your domestic needs, your homesteading, your businessing, your familial and romantic relationships, your apprenticing. Look out for that. Led by Lydia Van Hoy. We have put our heart and soul into this thing. Please buy it. It's 150 pages. Where did we go wrong? And then
that sounds very exciting.
Last but not least, my best friend and writing partner, Amber Litke, and we are creating a deck of many things revamp that we're tentatively calling the Deck of Multitudinous Things. The name may change. It's meant to introduce interesting roleplay opportunities more than random chaos. There's still random chaos, but it's roleplay driven. So it was very nice to be here. Keep an eye out for those projects. I think they're going to be lovely. And thank you so much for having me and for going with me on this duet.
Thank you, Sadie. Josh.
Hi, yeah. Well, you can find me at JVC Parry pretty much everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, etc., etc. My most recent DMs Guild release was Striving for Success, which is kind of mechanics that introduce a kind of pushing the roll style mechanic into D&D, so success at a cost, essentially. You can head over to my Twitter to have a look at all the spoilers, the art spoilers for the Dragon Relics campaign, which is going to be my next big campaign after Call from the Deep. You can support the Heroic Challenges Kickstarter, which is a project I'm working on with Lawsmith. I could go on, but I feel like probably I'll do.
Oh.
Lawsmith and Nord Games are two great companies that I work for that you can really support, and by supporting them, you'll support me. So that'd be great. Thanks so much for having me on. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, go follow Josh on Twitter to hear about all those other things he didn't mention.
Yeah.
And Leon.
I've been Leon. You can follow me on Twitter at Barillion, like the Pokemon. Just kidding. There's no Pokemon called Barillion. I have been editing a lot of stuff that technically hasn't been announced yet, but if you follow me at Barillion, you will find that. Recently, you can check out my work. I helped Willie on the Uncovered Wonders subclasses for barbarians and wizards. Some of the weirdest wizard stuff I've seen in a while, so please go check that out. I have been playing a lot of Animal Crossing, so if you have any diner furniture, please send it to me. And I don't have any cool things to show you about my work, so I'm going to show you this dog toy that I stole from my dog. This is Al Capone.
I love him!
That's his name, and she can't have it. He's mine. So please also tweet at me suggestions for...
Do you want to go?
No, not you, my dog. You can have it. Al Capone can be yours if you purchase him on the Chewy website, but not the Chewy, whatever website. Anyway, DM me like dog toy suggestions because I have to buy an apology gift for my dog because she can't have that.
Oh my goodness gracious. What has Dash come to? Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt. You can find me on Twitter at MMM666. When I'm not doing DMs Guild stuff, I'm working for Onyx Path. We just put Scarred Lands up as Pay What You Want today, so if you want to do campaigns, check that out. And then I'm also running a Ravenloft game, which I'm going to be publishing the adventure on DMs Guild pretty soon.
Ooh,
very
yay,
cool.
More Ravenloft, super fun. And I have been Lysa Penrose, your friendly neighborhood brand manager for Dungeon Masters Guild. You can follow me at Lysa Penrose on the social medias, or you can follow Dungeon Masters Guild at DMS_Guild on Twitter and Instagram, or look up Dungeon Masters Guild for our Facebook group, including our creator Facebook group, if you are a maker of D&D things. Thank you so much for joining. Tune in next third Friday of the month for Design Dash, and stay watching because Dragon Talk is up next. Greg and Shelley will be talking to B. Dave Walters, writer extraordinaire, writer of D&D comic books. It's definitely going to be a good interview, so stick around, and thanks everybody. Take care.